Welcome to STEM NOLA. My name is Dr. Calvin Mackey, and I'm happy to have you all tuning in. As a little background, we founded STEM NOLA 7 years ago to expose and inspire and engage communities in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. In the last 7 years, we've engaged over 50,000 K-12 students, over 12,000 families, and over 1,500 college students and STEM professionals. One thing that I'm proud to say is that we've put over $1 million in the hands of college students over the last 7 years serving as college interns with STEM NOLA, going out and engaging the community. So thank you for tuning in. Parents, thank you for believing in STEM NOLA and trusting us with your most prized possession, your child, your scholar. STEM NOLA believe that either we're training ourselves from the neck up or the neck down. In the 21st century, our children will only have one or three options. Either they're gonna take something, break something, and/or make something. And if we don't give them the skills and education to make something, like make a living, make a life, make a difference, it only leaves them with the two options that we see on the news every night, and that's to take and break. I don't want that for my two children, and I know you don't want that for yours, and that's why we're here today to expose our children to the possibilities of the 21st century. This is my friend. This is Alpha. Alpha is a humanoid. A humanoid is a robot that tries to act like a human. This humanoid has 9 servos and can do pretty much anything physically that a human can do. This is our competitor in the 21st century. Alpha can actually do push-ups. Alpha can even show off. And Alpha can even dance. And like any superhero, Alpha has her own music. This is the machine. And the automatic machine in the 21st century will displace many workers. In the aftermath of COVID, you have to believe that there are many companies out there saying never again will we allow a pandemic or something that happened in nature shut us down. So COVID has exacerbated the possibilities of machines displacing people. If you're competing against Alpha, you will not win. The only way we defeat Alpha is by developing our heart and developing our head, training ourselves from the neck up such that we can control the robots so that the robots will not control us. That's why we're here. That's why STEM NOLA exists. That's why your parents want to make sure that you all participate in events like this so you can know the possibilities of the 21st century. Again, I'm Dr. Calvin Mackey, and I want to say thank you for tuning in. Now let's get busy innovating, creating, and making with STEM NOLA. Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you, Dr. Mackey, for that great introduction. My name is Angele McClain. I'm our Special Projects Coordinator here at STEM NOLA, and I'm going to be facilitating our live session today. But first things first, we're going to have a brief presentation on friction by our professional, Bob Fudickar.
Phenomenon. The biggest thing about friction for us out at NASA is getting out of the friction state of our atmosphere into outer orbit so that we can reduce friction to get to the moon, Mars, and beyond. Our plant is building, like Dr. Mackey said, the most powerful rocket ever. They tested it week before last over at Stennis. They're going to do another test real soon. Then it moves over to Kennedy Space Center, where in a year or so, they'll blast off for a test flight to the moon and beyond. Well, to do that, we got to figure out how to get through that friction. The toughest part of getting to the moon is the first 100 feet of Earth. So because of the friction in our atmosphere. But the cool thing about friction is scientists and engineers, mechanical engineers, by the way, Dr. Mackey, this plays right into your hand, have figured out how to use friction to do one of the coolest welding techniques ever. We're going to show you a short video, and the video helps explain it. I'll come back on after the video and try to put it in application for what we're doing, building rockets. And so enjoy this video. I think it's probably a little less than 2 minutes. And pay close attention because it isn't that long, but it'll be fun. So, Ms. Kaylin, will you run that video real quick, please, ma'am?
From building bridges to erecting skyscrapers to assembling airplanes and cars, welding allows engineers and manufacturers to connect metal structures. But the method of joining metal to metal through melting had remained mostly the same for decades. That is, until 1991, when a new kind of welding was invented. Instead of melting metals to connect them using high temperatures, this new method, called friction stir welding, uses friction, just like when you rub your hands together on a cold day to warm them.
Friction is everywhere. And if friction did not exist, we will not have a comfortable life. We are able to walk on any surface because we have friction that allows us to walk.
Rajiv Mishra, a professor at the University of North Texas, is one of the world's foremost experts on friction stir welding. Although Mishra didn't invent friction stir welding, he's using his imagination, a key component of the innovation process, to create new applications of this technology. Through extensive testing, Mishra and his students continue to learn all they can about how the friction stir process transforms the physical and mechanical properties of all sorts of metals. Mishra hopes he can convince more designers and manufacturers that advances in friction stir processing can one day make cars, planes, and trains lighter and stronger.
Okay, so thanks for showing the video, and I know it seems a little complicated, so let me see if I can simplify it. So what these very smart people, mechanical engineers, came up with years ago, and they had perfected it to an advanced level, and they use aluminum out at Machine Assembly Facility at NASA to build these big fuel tanks, which stack together to make the rocket. Well, instead of using the conventional welding, they discovered that if you put the aluminum panels close together, like you saw in the video, and then used, for lack of a better term, a drill bit, you stir the molecules and atoms of each panel to where it bonds together without additional weight. And the bond, or the weld as we call it, is much stronger and a perfect bonding that not only reduces weight, but it increases strength with lighter metals. So when you combine all of those together and stack them, put fuel in them, put an engine on the bottom and astronauts on top, you can fire that thing off, and it's powerful and strong and gets you out of Earth's atmosphere and heads to the space station, in our case lately, or very soon to the moon and then Mars. The rocket we're building right now is the rocket, and its predecessors in, after the several versions of it, will be the rocket that goes to Mars with humans, all because of friction welding. So your topic today of friction has pretty fabulous efforts in how friction is our friend. Now, granted, you rub things together, get your hands warm. Sometimes you need to warm your hands. Sometimes it causes a blister. So you got to be perfect at it, and that's why engineers like Dr. Mackey have perfected it and learned how to do it right. So I hope this is a challenge for you to learn how school matters, how advanced education matters, and we'd love to see you out at the Machine Assembly Facility to show you in person. This equipment that we have was generated through the expertise of the select scientists and engineers that prepare the rocket and build the rocket. The state of Louisiana got together with NASA to do such, to provide these big, huge equipment things. And then Boeing and Lockheed Martin, who are out there, use them to make our rockets and to make them faster, better, stronger, and more powerful.
Thank you, Mr. Bob, for that presentation on friction. Once again, I'm Angele McClain, and I'm going to be facilitating today. So let's get started. Okay, first things first, we're gonna go over our agenda for the day. So we're gonna begin with some vocabulary terms so that you guys can get some more knowledge on friction and other terms that go along with friction. We're gonna do objectives for what we're trying to learn today, and then some activity questions that I want you to think about while we're going over the activities. And then we have both of our activities. We're gonna start off with sticky rice, and then we're gonna end with our marble friction activity. And then after that, we're gonna go over the questions and do a little poll so that you can kind of get a better feel for what we're doing here with friction. So let's get started. Our first vocabulary term is gonna be friction, which is the resistance when a body is moved in contact with another. Friction is a force that is created whenever two surfaces move or try to move across each other. Force, the push or pull on an object. Surface, the outer boundary of an artifact or a material layer. And oppose, to be against. Friction always opposes the motion or attempted motion of one surface across another surface. And our objective for today, you're gonna learn the meaning of the terms friction, force, and surface in terms of understanding what it actually means and applying it to the activities that we're gonna be doing today. And also you're gonna learn how to make sticky rice. So here are a few questions of the day that I want you to think about while we're doing our activities. So first things first, what force does friction oppose? Do smooth surfaces have more or less friction than rough surfaces? And does friction increase the speed of objects or slow them down? Alrighty, now we're gonna move on to our first activity, sticky rice. So while I am reading the science behind it, I want you guys to go ahead and grab your materials, which are gonna be rice, a pencil or chopsticks, either one, a funnel, a medium-sized plastic or glass bottle, and a scoop or spoon. The science behind it. Friction is a force that acts in an opposite direction to movement. Friction is found everywhere that objects come into contact with each other. The force acts in the opposite direction to the way an object wants to slide. As we push the chopstick into the bottle, the grains of rice settle close to one another, eliminating most of the air pockets. Once this happens, the frictional force overwhelms the rice, and so the rice will push against the chopstick. In fact, the grains are pushing so forcefully, they create a force that causes the chopsticks to become stuck, enabling you to pick up the bottle of rice. All right, so we have our bag of rice, our bottle, our chopsticks, and our funnel. So what you wanna do is take your funnel, and I actually don't have a spoon or scoop or anything, but this is where you take your spoon or scoop and go ahead and start scooping out rice to put into the funnel. Now, you wanna fill your bottle up with rice pretty full. Just a little air left at the top, like I'm doing now. Pick up your funnel, let the rice fall out if it gets stuck. Swivel it around. Make sure it's getting in there. Also, if you're scared about making a mess with the rice, you can probably put like a plastic bag under your bottle or something like that. If you don't want rice to get everywhere. Just about that. Okay. Getting a little high. And then kind of gently beat it down on the table like this just to get the rice to settle. So you can get as much in the bottle as possible. You don't want to have any air pockets in the rice. That's kind of why you're trying to get all of the rice to settle. Want to eliminate as many air pockets as possible. Also, uncooked rice. In case anyone was wondering, we definitely want to do this with uncooked rice, not cooked rice. Okay, I did a little bit too much, so I'm gonna let it fall back into the bag. Alrighty, okay. It's pretty good, getting it to settle. All right, and now we have our chopsticks or our pencil, whatever you got for the day. So now, what you want to do is, it's not going to be easy to just stick the chopstick in and then get it to stick. It's not going to be easy to make the sticky rice. So you want to kind of jab it in there, kind of get it stuck into the rice. Mix it around. Because if I just put it in like this, I'll pick up the chopstick or the pencil and it won't stick into the rice. So we kind of have to find a good balance to get all of the air pockets to be filled so that the sticky rice can work. Also, I've tried this plenty of times and maybe I need a little bit more rice. Like this is good. Sometimes it works, but if your bottle looks like this, it may be helpful to add a little bit more rice just to cover up as much air as possible. I'm gonna add, you know what, a little bit more like this. So I can do very, very small portions to try to fill up the air. Okay. A lot better, almost to the top, but not quite in the brim, right before the brim. And there we go. We have our sticky rice. And there we go. So if any of you guys can get your sticky rice to work with your pencil or your chopstick, make sure you take photos. Make sure you take photos, make sure you take a quick video, and make sure to send it in to us. So if you have a camera or something, go ahead and pull it out right now and take a picture or photo. Later. Sticky rice. So basically, by me putting the chopsticks into the rice, it allowed all of the air pockets to be eliminated, which is going to cause the rice to push back against the chopstick. And this is what's causing it to be kind of stuck inside of the rice. But when you move it around and give it different placement, that allows the air to fill back into the pockets. And then your chopstick or your pencil is no longer going to stick anymore. So yeah, sticky rice. All right. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and comment right now. Okay, let's move on to our next activity, marble friction. Alrighty, now everyone can go and grab their materials while I'm reading the science behind it. And the materials are going to be a round cake pan, a marble, construction paper, felt or a similar fabric, or craft or foam, and sandpaper. You also may need a pair of scissors, just to make it a bit easier to do this activity. Alrighty, the science behind it. Friction is the resistance that one surface or object encounters when moving over another. The smoother an object is, the less friction it has. Newton's first law of motion says that an object in motion will stay in motion unless acted on by an outside force. Friction is a force which slows down motion by preventing objects from sliding past each other. Which surface which surface had the most friction in your experiment and which one slowed the marble down the fastest? These are the two questions that I want you to keep in mind as we're doing this experiment. All righty, let's get started. So once you've gone ahead and grabbed your materials, I have some foam here, some felt here, some construction paper, and some sandpaper. So first things first, once you have your marble, let's go ahead and take the marble and put it in the cake pan that you got and kind of tap it a little bit to see how it spins, how many times it's going to spin around the cake pan. So let's see. 2, 3, then 3/4. Okay, so, or if I give it a faster tap, let's see. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 3.5, almost. Okay, now let's try some construction paper. First things first, we can go ahead and put it in there. I'm going to kind of make a small circle to try to see where I'm going to cut it. You don't have to do this step, definitely not, but I just kind of want to get a feel for the size of the pan so I don't make the surface too large or too small. Okay, we're gonna go ahead with that. And okay, so when we put the marble in the first time and tapped it, we kind of got about 3.5, 3 spins. Now let's see how many spins we're gonna get with the construction paper. Okay, now we're gonna try to tap it a little bit better than that, okay? 1.5. Let's see if we can get more than 1 or 1.5. All right, so we are not gonna get more than 1 or 1.5. So as you can see, by me changing the surface the first time, we got less spins than just on this plain surface. If I go ahead and do it again, you can see it's already more than what we got with the construction paper. So we can see some sort of friction is happening with this surface since it's causing the amount of spins to decrease. Okay, now let's try the felt. Okay, so I'm just gonna use the circle that I already made and cut around like so. Want to get a nice size piece to fit in your cake pan, whatever size that may be. All righty. Now we got a nice size circle. Tried plain construction, and now we're trying felt. So let's see what the felt surface is going to be like. All right, and let's take our marble and go ahead and give it a good spin or good tap. Okay. That wasn't much of anything. And I think the only spin that we did get was the part of the marble that was on the glass or the outside. Yeah. Okay. So 1 full rotation, maybe not even that. If the pan was completely covered in felt and I was a bit of a better circle drawer, then I think the marble would have moved even less than it is moving right now. So we got some movement there, but not quite as many rotations as no surface at all, the plain surface, or the construction paper surface. So I think we noticed even a bit more friction with the felt surface than we did with the construction paper surface. Okay, now let's go ahead and try foam. Foam, just gonna cut it like so. Use the same shapes to cut. All right, now let's try out this foam surface, which really isn't covering that well. So I'm gonna try to make another piece to cover up the glass part of the pan a little bit better. Yeah, I think that'll do it. Alrighty. So now let's try our marble again. So we've tried our plain surface, our construction paper surface, and our felt surface. Now here's our foam surface. Give it a little push and let's see how many rotations we can get this way. Okay, so we see the movement kind of slow down when it switches from the glass surface to the foam surface. So not quite any rotations, but we can see the difference in friction on the two surfaces. Once again, if you look, you can see the marble slowing down as it goes from the glass surface to the foam surface, like so. It's almost like a speed bump. It's almost like the foam is acting as a speed bump. A lot more friction causing the rotations to slow all the way down. And now let's try our last surface, the sandpaper. Okay. Cut shape. And here we are. All right, let's see what the sandpaper is gonna do for us. Alrighty, now grab your marble and let's test out the sandpaper. Okay, so although we do have some movement, we don't have much of a rotation at all. So without the surface, we got movement, we've got rotation, we've got the marble continuously moving. Now, when we add sandpaper as a different surface, it slows. The sandpaper is causing a lot of friction on the surface, which is causing the marble to slow and then eventually come to a complete halt, as opposed to how the marble kept moving in the circle when there was no surface. So if anyone wants to take a whack at it, we can start with our questions that we have. Specific. Okay, so what force does friction oppose? What force does friction oppose? Let's take a second and think about it. for, all righty, here we go. What force does friction oppose? The downward force on an object that keeps it stuck to earth, the upward force that acts on an object in the air, or the upward force a fluid exerts on an object less dense than itself. Okay, so what force does friction oppose? We spoke about this earlier. So if friction causes an object to come to a halt or slow, what's the opposite force that goes against the force that causes an object to stop or slow down? Motion. Motion is the force that opposes friction. So let's move on to the second question. Do smooth surfaces have more or less friction than a rough surface? So if the opposite of friction is motion, what surface do we think has more or less friction? The smooth surface or the rough surface? Or does the smoother surface have more or less friction than the rough surface? The answer is going to be less friction, because a smooth surface allows for motion to continuously happen. It allows for things to stay in motion, as opposed to a rougher surface that'll have hiccups. Sort of like the speed bump example I gave earlier. If you were riding down the street, do you think you would go faster or slower with or without the speed bump? And now we can move on to our third question. Does friction increase the speed of objects or slow them down? Does friction increase the speed of objects or slow them down? It slows them down. So it decreases the speed of objects. If there are any questions, you can add them in the chat below or send an email later referencing something we did today. Also, remember how I told you guys to take your pictures or your mini videos? This is the email that we'd like you to email your pictures or mini videos to, webinar@stemnola.com. So thank you everyone for tuning in to this fiction live session today. We hope that you keep coming back.